Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of the Monsters Den. Of course, in the co-captain's chair, the man himself, Mr. Chris Alo.
Hey Pete, how's it going?
It's going. It's
Thanks,
going.
thanks for having me. Like always, always a pleasure.
Wouldn't be a Monsters Den without you, my friend,
Thank
and
you, thank you.
especially not part two of Exploitation Classics, right?
One of my favorite topics.
So, for a refresher, we did part one a couple of weeks ago. Chris, you want to talk a little bit about what makes an exploitation film?
Sure, and it's a little bit of a gray area.
It's a slippery
But
slope, right? A little
yeah,
bit.
it's a very like my first one is one that ticks like four categories. But that's a staple of exploitation movies. It's a wide range, and it could be an exploitation movie, it could be a slasher film, it could be a teen sex comedy, it could be a kung fu movie, it could be a black exploitation movie. It falls into a wide a wide
Fake
category.
revenge, animal attacks,
Yeah,
right? It's all those things. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, to me, the term exploitation movie is kind of synonymous with a drive-in movie. Something that you think you would have seen in the drive-in in the 70s and 80s. That's probably an exploitation movie.
Yeah. And I think if you go and like look up the actual term, a lot of times what they say, it's like an exploitation film takes a theme of a very popular other film or films and then just basically goes and kind of rehashes it using different actors ideas, things like that, and basically just taking that very popular theme and just kind of exploiting it and just basically redoing it with obviously other differences,
Right.
but yeah, so a lot of really
Absolutely.
great ones out there as
And
we're
it's really such a wide range. I mean,
yeah.
I know we're going to a horror movie festival in a couple months, and the same company, Exhumed Films, used to do, and maybe they'll bring it back post pandemic. They used to do an exploitation film festival, and that one was 12 hours of exploitation films, and it ran the gamut of Italian crime films versus movies like Ilsa, She Wolf of the SS. I mean, it just it was all over the place. So yeah, it's a wide range, but it's fun. I mean, to me, I as a kid I liked exploitation movies, but didn't even realize, oh, this is an exploitation movie. I
No,
just thought it
because
was a
it
fun
was either
movie.
a horror movie or a crime thriller or a
Right.
sex movie or whatever you want to call it, monster movie. But then as you start to watch all of these, you realize how many of these films there are
Yeah.
and why they call them exploitation now all these years later. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and we've each picked out five. Like I said, we've got plenty left to do more episodes of
Oh,
this. So
sure.
maybe the exploitation theme here on the Monsters Den will be a once a month thing, which very easy to do. And I'm looking at my picks. I've got kind of like all different categories here. I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah,
So
I think so for the most part.
yeah, so we'll have
There,
Chris.
there was a martial arts movie that I did want to revisit, and I didn't get the chance to rewatch it. So if we do more parts, that'll have to be in the future.
Is that the one you were talking about in the first
Yeah, it's
episode?
so. I have to show it to you, Pete. It is so violent and gory. It's unbelievable.
Cool. Martial arts
Yes,
exploitation. There you go.
absolutely. I mean, there's a whole, Bruce exploitation was all the, bad enough was just the kung fu movies, but specifically ones where they tried to sell it to the public as a Bruce Lee movie,
Right.
but it just had a guy that maybe looked a little like Bruce Lee.
Right. And they did a lot
Called
of
him
those, right? Yeah.
Bruce Lie and Bruce Lay and oh, crazy,
Bruce
crazy.
Leung and yeah, it's
Yeah,
exactly.
crazy, crazy,
But
crazy
again, that's
times.
exploitation films right there.
That's exploitation. That's
Yep.
it exactly.
Yep. So with saying that, what do you got for your first choice here today?
Okay, this first one is the one. It's from 1975, and it ticks. It hits four buckets. Yeah, it's a horror movie, but it's also an action movie. It's a car chase movie, which were huge in the 70s, and it's got that 70s satanic chic, which is in the wake of Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. Satanic stuff in the 70s was huge, and I saw this movie probably for the first time in probably like 1977 on TV, and it scared the shit. I loved it, but it scared the shit out of me. And it's 1975's Race with the Devil. This is
Ah,
a double disc Blu-ray of Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, which is another humongous exploitation car chase film from the 70s, starring Peter Fonda, and he was also in this movie here, Race with the Devil, which has an amazing cast. It's Peter Fonda, Warren Oates from The Wild Bunch, Loretta Swit from MASH, Lara Parker from Dark Shadows, and long story short, it's Warren Oates and Peter Fonda are out with their wives, and they accidentally stumble across satanic ritual, and they own a company that has motorcycles, and they do motorcycle racing, and the whole movie is them running away from the Satanists. And there's car chases and motorcycle chases and shootouts and satanic stuff, and it's got one of the darkest, creepiest endings of a film I've ever seen. I've seen it multiple times, seen it off film, owned it multiple times on Blu-ray and DVD, and it's a hoot. It really is. It's a fun, creepy movie. It's got the creepiest tree I've ever seen in the history of cinema. One time, my buddy Marcos described a scene to me with a tree. He's like, "What movie was this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's Race with the Devil." And if you see the movie, you'll
how
know the
many
tree
how
I'm
many
talking
films with creepy trees do you have, right? Yeah.
about. Exactly. But yeah, it's a good one. So that's my first pick.
Yeah, I've heard about that film for eons. I've never seen
Oh, you
it.
never saw it?
No, no.
Oh, forget it, Pete. We'll have to hopefully have you over. We'll show you. It's fun. Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, also another huge exploitation movie from the 70s. And that one's just car chasing, which I'm not a car guy, so I'm like, eh. But yeah, Race with the Devil is a lot of fun.
Cool. That's what I've heard. So
Yeah,
I'm in. I'm sold.
awesome,
Cool.
nice.
All right, my first one here, 1968, directed by Adrian Hoven, who directed Mark of the Devil, which I talked about on first episode of this
Yep,
little series here. Castle of the Creeping Flesh. That's got to be
nice.
one of the greatest Blu-ray covers ever.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it doesn't really portray what happens in the film. There's no kind of weird rates,
Which is perfect exploitation.
Exactly. So this is a crazy film. This is it's kind of like a Hammer film from the same time period, gone off the rails. So it takes place in God, where does this take place? In the UK, England, Germany, I think. And it basically it follows this group of like swingers, this young people. They're out, they're hanging out, they're going to parties, all this kind of stuff. There's like this crazy rape scenes. Anyway, they wind up all going, they think they're going to some party. They wind up going to this old castle, and like, oh, we're gonna go hang out and have fun at the castle. Like, they just decided to do this. Okay, do they even know or care who lives there? I don't know. Anyway, they go to the castle. They meet up with like the butler guy, who's real creepy as well. And he's like, we want to hang out at the castle. This is apparently the castle of Count Saxon, I believe his name was. So he lets them in. They meet the Count. He's another real creepy old dude, whatever. Long story short, the Count's young daughter, who was his entire world, had just died, right? So he's got her laying dead down in the dungeon, and he's kind of like a scientist. So he comes with this idea that he's going to do these operations on her and put like new living organs in her to bring her back to life. So he comes and goes from down in the dungeon, trying to work on the daughter, and he's like opening up her chest, and they inject all this real footage of like heart transplant operations into the film. And what's more gross to look at but someone actually opening up someone's chest and the heart beating, right, and all that kind of stuff. So, and they like, it goes on for like 5-10 minutes. like it's
Similar
real.
to another exploitation classic, Night of the Bloody Apes,
Yeah.
which has real operation footage in the middle of the movie. You're like, what?
So there's plenty of this, and then he decides, he wants to, and there's all these weird goings on with the young folks that are in the film, and you've probably seen some of these actors and actresses before, but there's tons of sex, there's tons of nudity, there's the Count owns a crazy killer bear too, so the bear is like prowling around on the property, and like I said, he wants to bring the daughter back to life, and he thinks by killing these young people and stealing some of their organs and transplanting them in, that he's going to do it. It's a wacky film with a crazy ass ending, and like I said, it's part sexploitation, it's part kind of gothic horror tale, it's part like all sorts of other things. It's just really, really wacky, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, here it says a haunted gothic tale of madness, lust, and blood-chilling horror.
Now, was that released on VHS under a different title? Because I could have sworn it sounds so familiar.
I don't know. Also known as Castle of Bloody Lust.
All right.
That's what I guess it was also called. But yeah,
I might have seen it. If not,
it's been out of print for a long time. This is the first time it's available. I don't think it was available on DVD before this. This is separate on Blu-ray. So I think it would be right up your alley.
No, I'll have to see it again, Pete.
That's so it sounds like a good one. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun. So that's my first pick.
Nice. That sounds like a good one.
Back to you.
My next one is one that's from a somewhat notorious director. And this movie, because of the director and because it's so violent, this was one of those an exploitation trope that it's one kind of movie and they sold it as a horror movie. And it's from Umberto Lenzi, the Italian director who directed such classics as Eaten Alive and Cannibal Ferox, aka Make Them Die Slowly. And it's 1974's Almost Human. And yes, that's a beautiful Italian woman being chained to a chandelier. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Paul, who runs the Dead Till Dawn drive-in shows up at the Highway Drive-in in Coxsackie, New York. He does them a couple times a year. If you're anywhere in the upstate Hudson Valley area, you should check it out, because Pete he runs these drive-in shows where he brings back horror and exploitation classics. And probably about 6 or 7, maybe 10 years ago, he ran this movie called Almost Human, which I had always wanted to see. And I remember talking to him before the show, and I was like, "Oh, I always wanted to see this movie. How is it?" He's like, "I don't know. I always wanted to see it too." So I'm like, "Holy shit, this is crazy! You don't know if this movie's good, and you're playing it in front of a packed house of hundreds of people at this drive-in, but this movie's fucking awesome."
Really?
It stars Thomas Milian, who was in tons of Italian stuff like Don't Torture a Duckling and the Tough Ones. Henry Silva, who great American actor from Sharky's Machine and Alligator and a fucking million other movies. Ray Lovelock from Autopsy and Let Sleeping Corpses Lie. And it's called The Death Dealer in America. And in England, it was called, I believe, Almost Human. And I don't know what the Italian title is, but it's not a horror movie. It's just an ultra violent Italian crime film.
Okay.
Thomas Milian plays this scumbag of all scumbags, and it's he robs a bank with some other guys, and he kidnaps a beautiful Italian girl who's the daughter of a mob boss, and then of course he's trying to extort money from the boss for the girl he kidnapped. Of course, he slaps her around. He rapes her a whole bunch of times, but because it's the 70s, she kind of halfway likes it. It's that weird kind of thing. There's tons of nudity, tons of violence. I mean, hot, beautiful women getting chained to chandeliers, people getting shot and killed like every couple minutes. I mean, it's wild. I remember sitting there going, "Holy shit, this movie's nuts." And even for 1974, because it was a US print I was seeing. I was like, I couldn't believe this movie got an R rating because it's so hyper violent. It's definitely worth checking out. It's because it's a 70s movie, like some of these other ones, like Race with the Devil and Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. It definitely leaves you kind of depressed, but definitely worth checking out. This is the of course, because the girl's naked on the cover. This is the European version from Shameless Films, the European Blu-ray. But I'm 99% sure somebody in America released it with a different cover. But I think it's also still called Almost Human. So if you're in the mood for some Italian crime, but super action packed, I would check this movie out.
Yeah, that's another one I've never seen.
Yeah.
Never even heard of that one.
Yeah, yeah. Also known as like I said, as the Death Dealer, and yeah, they kind of try and sell it. It's one of those ones like Cutthroat's Nine, which was a western, and a Euro western that is just so violent that they sold it as a horror movie because I guess the thinking was normal western fans wouldn't like this because it's so just so violent. And this is it's a crime movie, but wow, it's rough.
Brutal. Cool.
Yeah. Definitely worth checking out.
All right, my next one, 1984. I know this is a favorite of yours also. Savage Streets.
Well, for sure.
Danny Steinman directed this falls under kind of like the vigilante / rape revenge type of exploitation film. So basically in this film, stars Linda Blair. All right, great role for her, and she plays this like teenager, right? She hangs out with this whole kind of like, it's not like a gang, but this group of the tough chicks in the high school.
The tough chicks, absolutely.
Yeah, tough chicks, and she's like the leader of this group. She's kind of a badass, and this it's 1984, so this is probably almost 10 years after she did The Exorcist, right?
Exorcist, yeah.
Yep. So by this point, she is trying to get back into doing more movies and maybe moving away from horror, because I think Hell Night was right before this, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So here is her, moving into a different direction, but going from horror into the exploitation films, because of course she would do some more of that type of stuff. But so basically, she's got this group of girls, the tough girls. She also has a younger sister, who is played by Linnea Quigley, and one of her first roles, I would think, right?
It's got to be, yeah. I mean, it was right around the time of Silent Night, Deadly Night, and oh Jesus, what's the Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
So it was right around there.
Yeah. So and this is pre-breast implants for her, so it's probably a year or two before then.
Yeah.
So, and she plays the young sister who's deaf, very innocent. So meanwhile, she's got this, the tough older sister and the deaf, very sweet younger sister. And they start to get into some shit with the local, the gang, right? So it's 4 guys. One of them's kind of like a geek, but he falls into the wrong crowd. And the other 3 are a little bit older, and they're pretty bad dudes, right? So they're drug dealers. They terrorize all the kids in the neighborhood and just about everybody. Anyway, they get into like a squabble with them because the deaf sister is crossing the street, and these guys are just drinking and driving, rampaging down the street in their car. They almost run her over, right? So that starts this whole thing between the 2 groups, and then the ladies decide to steal their car, and that, of course, that doesn't go over too well, right? Then there's another incident in a bar, and one of the chicks slashes the head guy's cheek. So long story short, without giving too much away here, the gang of bad guys winds up raping and beating up pretty bad Linnea Quigley's character, the deaf sister. So of course that doesn't sit well with Linda Blair's character. And then something happens to one of Linda Blair's friends, who is getting married right after graduation, and she's also pregnant, right, with her boyfriend. So the whole rest of the film is her saying, okay, I'm getting these guys. So the whole second half of the film is her plotting and getting ready to go and take these dudes out. So it's actually the last half hour is like really, really crazy, really action packed. And yeah, she puts on the whole outfit and she's got, the crossbow and all
Crossbow.
the weapons and everything like that. It's like, how did she learn to use this stuff? We don't
I mean,
know.
it's essentially Death Wish
That's
with
exactly what it is.
Linda Blair as Charles Bronson.
Yeah. And you get a cat fight with her and her blonde rival at school, in the showers, in the gym showers. You get, there's just all sorts of craziness.
Oh yeah.
Some of the acting is absolutely atrocious, but there's so many classic lines in this film, and it's like,
go fucking iceberg.
Yeah,
being one of the greatest.
Mr. Animal House himself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's just some great lines. Like I said, it's just, when you look back on it, like a movie like this would never fly today.
Oh,
because
no doubt.
It's just, this is
that's a point, Pete. That's a perfect point. 99% of the movies we're discussing, from would not fly in today's day and age. Absolutely, no way.
Because first of all, none of the female actors would ever want to do stuff like this. Yep, and what's really interesting is if you watch, this is the Code Red Blu-ray version of this. There's a really great interview with Linda Blair, and there's one with Linnea Quigley as well. But Linda Blair's, and if you know anything about Linda Blair in more recent times, she's like an animal activist now. She's like, I think she's a vegan, and you look at her now. I mean, she doesn't look anything like this. She is like, she's probably a little bit older than me. She's probably about 60 or something like that. And she is like ripped. She is really thin. She's in great shape. She looks great for her age, but she doesn't look anything like this anymore. But she is like, she has tried to put a lot of her past and, relationships, movies, all that sort of thing. A lot of, she did a lot of drugs back in the day, all that kind of stuff. She's really tried to distance herself from it, but she had great things to say about this film and great memories. But you have to wonder deep down inside if she looks back on this and she's like, ugh, that film made her some money, right? And it brought her a lot of renewed fame, because she was one of those, is she going to be, an also ran teen actress that's never going to go do anything? And this did very well for her. And but it's a lot of fun, and it's pretty violent, and it's pretty bloody, and as bad as the acting is in throughout all of it, you really can connect with the characters. And it's like, I remember I either saw this in the theaters back when it came out, or I rented it, or both. And I hadn't seen it in like 30 years, and rewatched it. And I remembered all the lines, and it's like I watched it yesterday, so it's pretty cool.
So much fun. I mean, I have a 35 millimeter film print of it. It's a blast. I mean, I had Linda Blair autograph my Savage Streets poster, and to be honest, I mean, her eyes lit up when she saw the poster, because I think she was probably so sick of talking about The Exorcist.
Sure.
Yeah. And she was very, I met her a few times, but only one time I had her sign the Savage Streets poster. And I had Danny Steinman, who directed the poster, one of the strangest, a real strange, like creepy kind of uncle kind of guy. And I remember when I went up to him with the poster, he was like, Linda Blair. He's like, did you see her tits in that movie? And I was like, and this is like 15 years later. This isn't like the 2000s. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, good tits, huh? I'm like, yeah, great tits, great tits. Thanks for asking. So kind of a weird dude, but man, Savage Streets is a blast. If you like rape revenge movies, but ones that aren't so, it's dark, but it's not as dark as, say, They Call Her One Eye or Death Wish. There's something about it. Savage Streets kind of reminds me
of mid-80s, though. It's got that mid-80s feel to it,
It reminds me of Switchblade Sisters. It's still kind of cartoony, and just fun. It's a blast.
She's an interesting character, because I was watching the interview with her, and it brought back memories, because she was a chiller like almost every year.
Oh yeah,
and I remember
she lives in Connecticut.
Yeah, she's local. And one year I was like waiting online to get something signed by her, and she's like very vigilant about people not paying for tough photographs of her. So
Sure.
like we're online and she's got these eagle eyes and she sees some dude like 30 feet away who's like trying to snap a picture of her sitting at the table, and she's like, and she goes and puts her hand up like this, goes like this, and she calls the
Wow.
security. I mean, like real headstrong about it. And I was like, why is she worrying about this one dude? You've got 50 people waiting on this line who are going to give you probably more money than you deserve to just take a picture or sign something, right? But yeah, but that's what else is she doing for a living nowadays?
That's it. There's no more acting gigs, so that's probably her, her only source of income.
Yeah. So,
and I know, like you said, from what I've heard, she donates a ton to all the animal charities and taking care of animals. So,
yeah,
dogs got to eat.
Yep. True. All right, back to you.
All right, my next one. This is another 70s movie. I think are all mine from this? Yeah, gosh, all mine are from almost the same year in the 70s. So this one is a movie that I had heard about because I saw the poster first. And I was like, Jesus, that's a crazy name for a movie. And then I wound up getting a bootleg copy of it because that's all you could get, years ago. And now it's on Blu-ray under the alternate title. And man, it's a hoot. This is from 1974. It's from director Bob Keljan, and it is Act of Vengeance, which I first heard of under its original title, which is The Rape Squad. And it's a crazy movie.
There you have it, right there.
This guy Bob Keljan directed a bunch of stuff. His more famous movies were the two Count Yorga movies.
Oh, okay.
And
great.
Scream Blackula Scream. But this guy just had an eye for shooting for television, for shooting TV episodes. This guy had an unbelievable career making TV episodes. So he did stuff on Hill Street Blues, Fame, Police Story, Charlie's Angels, Starsky and Hutch. And, I guess that was always with him because when he made this movie, it looks and feels like a made-for-TV movie. The way it's shot and the way it's edited and the way the music and during certain scenes where you get the blaring horns, it just feels like a made-for-TV movie. However, there's violence and rape and nudity. So it just feels like a really sleazy made-for-TV movie. And it is interesting. It's kind of like a slasher film, but instead of a slasher, this creep goes around raping beautiful women, and then they all band together to hunt him down. So on one hand, it's an exploitation movie. On one hand, yeah, you could look at it as like a female empowerment movie because they're trying to, take it back. It's a really well done, creepy little movie. One thing that's unbelievable is this was made in 1974. The Rape Squad. They did not do a reversible cover. They really should have, because I'm a poster collector. I have the Act of Vengeance poster, but I also do have the Rape Squad poster. And the killer, even though he doesn't kill anybody, the rapist, I guess I should say, the serial rapist, runs around. He calls himself Jingle Bells, which is weird, but he goes around in a mechanic's one-piece coverall.
That's different.
And he wears a hockey mask. So I'm like, all right, so he's in the Michael Myers outfit, but wearing the Jason fucking hockey mask.
Wow, all those years before, right? Years
before.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that's really crazy, really crazy. But it's a good little, rape revenge exploitation movie. I really like it. It's one of those ones I never thought I would see a legit release of, let alone, remastered in HD for Blu-ray. I think there's a trailer and one or two other little things, but it's a good movie.
Who put that one out?
This one, let me see. Scorpion Releasing in association with MGM.
Yeah, the Scorpion Releasing does a good job.
Yeah. This came out in 2019. Brand new 2019 HD master from Original Interpositive. Yeah, it looks great. I mean, I have two bootleg DVDs that I got, and those look like garbage compared to this.
it's amazing how bad some of those old DVDs look now,
Oh God, no
especially if
doubt.
you
I
have
mean,
an upgraded system. And oh yeah,
oh for sure.
yep. All right, cool. All right, my next one, 1972. This is probably the most well known, I guess, out of all my picks here today. Wes Craven's Last House on the Left. This is the
Very
kick-ass
infamous.
Arrow set. I mean, this, you can't beat this. It's got friggin', Blu-ray, book, poster. I mean, all sorts of cool shit here. Lobby cards. I mean, all sorts of nice stuff there. So yeah, this is, I think most people probably know, very infamous film. His first film, first big film, I guess.
Well, he did porn first.
Yeah, so I think this is his first horror film. If I
So yeah, I believe that's yeah, that was his first horror film.
Yeah. So, the story goes, you got a couple of young girls, teenagers who want to go out to out to the disco, right? Isn't that where they're going, or a concert, something like that?
I think it was a concert.
Yeah, I think it's a concert, right? So they're going, and this takes place in Connecticut. So they're actually going into New York City. And they wind up, running into this group of not so good, dudes, for lack of a better term, and a woman, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of them's a little bit younger than the others. Anyway, they try to go score some weed, right? And they wind up going back to the place where these dudes are these people are hanging out. And yeah, let's just say that they're not very good people. And what they wind up doing is kind of terrorizing these two girls and raping them and killing them and leaving them for dead. They take them for, a ride out. They wind up actually going, and especially the title character, the main girl, who is, her parents play a big part in the latter part of this film. And they wind up like just raping her and brutalizing her, like out in the woods, near a pond that is like not far from where she actually lives.
Right.
So then they wind up, something happens with their car, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while since I've seen this. And they wind up stumbling upon the girl's house with the parents. The parents are wondering where the daughter is. And so they wind up, they invite them to stay over. You got the car trouble. Why don't you stay here tonight? Tomorrow morning, you can get everything taken care of, so on and so forth. And then during the course of the evening, they figure out that the people they're staying with are the parents of the girl they just raped and killed. And then and the guys are so sleazy and disgusting. I mean, they played the parts perfectly here. You got what's that guy's name? David Hess.
David Hess,
the leader of this group, and he's like so good in this role.
Oh yeah.
But one of the other dudes winds up like, trying to get something going with the wife. And long story short, the parents finally wind up finding out what they did to the daughter. So then it's the whole revenge part of this whole thing. Yeah. So it's there's a couple of very noteworthy scenes in here, which I won't give away, that are pretty, infamous from this film. But the last like half of the film, or last half hour of the film, is pretty intense. And they did a remake of this not too long ago,
Yes.
where I think they even, made it even more brutal. So
I love the remake. I mean, I thought
it's not bad. Yeah, I prefer the original, but I thought the remake is pretty good.
I remember the ending without saying anything. I don't remember ever laughing so hard, and it wasn't unintentional. I wasn't supposed to laugh because I was the only guy laughing in the theater. But I just loved that remake. It was fun. But yeah, very, very brutal remake as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is such a bleak film.
Oh yeah.
This makes I Spit on Your Grave look like a happy camper.
100%. 100%. Yeah, this movie.
They're both the two probably poster childs for this whole rape revenge exploitation.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I mean, to me, the trilogy of movies where you kind of, it's that old saying, I felt like I wanted to take a shower after watching the movie. Like Last House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave, and Maniac.
Oh yeah.
Just you just feel so
grimy
after watching it. But
like you watch it and you're like, all right,
Yeah,
Should I even tell anybody that I enjoyed that?
no, it's true. It's true. Yeah, Last House is a rough one, and that was based on I don't know if it's based on a book, but it's a foreign Bergman film called, I think, The Virgin Spring.
Virgin Spring from
Yeah,
1960. Yep, yep.
which was, it was almost the same exact story, but in, a foreign language, and it was a period piece. But
Yeah.
and it's definitely, it still works because it's such a simple plot, which is so good. You could remake it today. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, the irony of the young girl being tortured, being so close to home, and then the parents finding out and getting their revenge. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great,
It's
simple story.
it's really simple. It's but I mean, the lengths that the parents, wind up going to in the end of the
Yeah.
movie to kind of avenge the death of their daughter, which it's just so horrific. And it's like, they had to think really quickly about what they were going to do, because that's the thing, the final events of the film unfold very, very quickly, and it's not like there was really any planning going on either part when you really think about it, because they kind of just stumble upon each other, both kind of camps here, the bad guys and the parents of the dead daughter. And then all of a sudden, when both sides start to realize where, who they are and who they are, and then everything just starts unrolling. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a movie that was a huge hit on the grindhouse and drive-in circuit. I mean, I remember seeing it still playing in New York City on the grindhouse circuit in the late '80s. I mean, I didn't see it then. I believe I'd already seen it on VHS,
Yeah,
but it was still playing in theaters. And the significance, of course, directed by Wes Craven and produced by Sean Cunningham, who would go on to direct the first Friday the 13th movie. So, like, without Last House on the Left, we would have no Freddy and no Jason.
true, true.
I mean,
Yeah.
this movie, in a way, it launched the careers for both men, and we got these two horror icons from the '80s, based on what they did in the '70s.
Yeah, very true, very true.
So whether you like it or not, I mean, the cultural,
It's a
historical
very
significance of this movie
significant,
is, yeah,
totally significant film. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. It's not. It's a hard film to watch, but it's like, I think
yes,
like it's a legendary movie for a reason, and it's very well done,
right,
considering they had like no budget. Wes just had nothing to work with here, but the actors really, really made the film. And it's not like it's terribly
oh, for
gory or
sure,
anything, but it's just so disturbing, like really disturbing. And it's
yeah, disturbing and unsettling, and
yeah,
even David Hess, I forget the character's first name, but the last name is Krug, Krug, and then he added the ER to make it Krueger for Freddy Krueger when Wes Craven did Friday the 13th.
yep, yep, pretty cool, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's a tough sit through, but yeah, definitely an exploitation classic.
Yep, yep, that's true. All right, what do you got?
All right, my next one. I hope we didn't go over this one. I meant to ask you, Pete. I hope we didn't go over this one in the last one. But it's a movie that I've seen twice recently, and I recently bought, so I figured I would mention it. It's Bobby Joe and the Outlaw.
You did not, so now's
Okay.
the perfect time.
All right, good. I know you and I have talked about it
Oh
before.
yeah.
It's from 1976. It stars Marjoe Gortner, who was in a ton of '70s movies and TV shows, including one of my favorites, Food of the Gods,
Yep, yep.
and Linda Carter. And this came out right around the time of Wonder Woman, her hit TV show. Jesse Vint, who was in lots of exploitation movies like Macon County Line, Forbidden World. Garrett Graham, who was in Phantom of the Paradise and Used Cars. The great Belinda Balaski, who's done like everything Joe Dante did.
Yep, yep.
Gremlins and Howling and Piranha. And it's basically, to me, it's like somebody saw Bonnie and Clyde in whatever year that came out, like 1972 or 71 or 60, whatever the hell it was. Somebody saw Bonnie and Clyde and was like, okay, let's just remake Bonnie and Clyde, but make it in modern day with modern actors. And that's what it is, except I think it's more, Bonnie and Clyde's pretty violent. I
So
think
is
this
this
one's
though.
even more violent.
It is, yeah.
And holy shit, the amount of nudity in this movie is unbelievable. Linda Carter and Belinda Belaski both get naked like 3, 4 times a piece. They both look incredible. To me, and I don't want to sound creepy, but Linda Carter is a little thicker in this than she is in Wonder Woman. She looks absolutely gorgeous. And they're running around robbing banks and shooting people and car crashes,
Yep.
and it's shootout after shootout with the local podunk sheriffs. I don't want to give too much away, but of course, it ends in a hail of bullets. And man, it's a lot of fun. I'd always wanted to see the movie, and then maybe like a year ago or 6 months ago, um, I saw it on Turner Classic Movies in HD late at night, and I was like, "Holy shit, this movie's unbelievable!" And then I happened to look it up, and it was on Blu-ray, or it was just about to come on Blu-ray, so I had to buy it, and
I think I
I
told you.
watched it
I
again.
think I told you when it was released because yeah, it's
Yeah, so I watched it, a couple times since, and man, it's a blast.
it is.
So if you want, especially if you want to see Linda Carter naked, and who doesn't, I would definitely check out Bobby Joe and the Outlaw.
She's one of the most beautiful women of all time, in my
Oh,
opinion. And
unbelievable!
at
I mean,
72 years old or whatever she is, she
I
still
was
looks
just gonna
amazing.
say,
Yeah,
I don't know how old she is, but God bless her. She looks amazing.
yeah.
She was in that last Wonder Woman movie for a second, which was fucking terrible, but it was good to see her at the very end. But yeah,
It's a
what
fun film. It's you're right. It's like Bonnie and Clyde. It's also a little bit. You ever see the movie Badlands with Martin Sheen and Sissy Spacek?
yes,
It's a little like that
exactly.
as well. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
mashup of the two of them. You know,
Martin Sheen and what's her name from Carrie, right?
Sissy Spacek.
Or
Yep.
no, yeah,
Yep.
same. Yep, same premise. I was probably, I bet you, the Perfect Exploitation. That was a hit. Bonnie and Clyde was a hit. All right, let's rip it off.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's a good one. That's a good one. I remember
Yeah.
that they used to play that back in like the late 70s, early 80s when like we first got cable. Like Cinemax used to play
Okay.
that all the time. And I remember like staying up one night, as a teenager and watching it like, what the hell? And I'm like, also, that's Wonder Woman, right? But done before Wonder Woman. And I
Right.
remember like all of a sudden you see there she is. There, her and Marjorie Gordon are rolling around
Yeah.
like campfire. And I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
like,
I mean, early on in the movie, she goes. It's a little creepy here. She's yelling at her mom, and her mom follows her into her bedroom, and she's got like a big poster of Robert Plant, and she gets topless in front of her mom. She's changing her clothes. I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'd always heard that Linda Blair shows some skin in this, but I didn't realize the extent that it was that much.
and there was more to come.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, it was I think it was from American International Pictures. I'm shocked looking at it now that they released this right when Wonder Woman hit. I'm so shocked that they didn't re-release it with like a different title and a different poster to try and cash in on Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman was such a big hit.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Very strange. And she disowned that film for many, many years. She probably
Oh,
still
I'm
does
sure.
now, but got to start somewhere, right?
That's it. Got to get your, got to
Gotta
get your foot in
start
the door
somewhere.
somehow.
Yeah. All right. My next flick is one that you mentioned briefly ages ago on the Monsters Den, but I watched it with you, and then I went out and bought it, and I watched it again recently. And again, it's another type of exploitation film, and this is all about the animals attack. Right? There's been, Jaws kind of like paved the way, I think, in the 70s for all these other films where you have snakes and grizzlies and every kind, giant rats and mice and all this kind of stuff,
Spiders
and all that kind of stuff, as well as giant bunny rabbits, Night of the Lepus.
Yes. So good, but so bad, but so good.
It's this a perfect this is so bad, but you can't stop watching it, right? I mean, we've heard this story before of mankind messing around with Mother Nature, things they don't know, coming up with serums and all this type of thing that they, here it's like it takes place out in Arizona, and
Yeah.
these ranchers and stuff are having problems because there's an overpopulation of rabbits, the wild desert rabbits, whatever the hell they're called. So they're trying to figure out a way to kind of keep the population under wraps because they're eating all their crops and all this kind of stuff. So they come up with a serum that's going to help, control the reproduction and all that kind of stuff. But it actually winds up backfiring, and it makes the rabbits grow gigantic. And then, of course, how fast rabbits multiply. So in the span of like 3 days, all of a sudden you've got hundreds and hundreds of rabbits that are like the size of, like a lion. And they're basically rampaging around the countryside, killing people, dismembering people, and creating all sorts of havoc. You got Stuart Whitman, Janet Leigh, Rory Calhoun, and what's his face from Star Trek, Bones.
DeForest Kelly.
DeForest Kelly. So it's got a great cast. They all kind of look like the whole movie.
I think Woody Strode also, right?
Yeah. Yep. But they all do a fine job, I think. But you get the impression watching this film that they're probably like thinking, why the hell did I sign on for this crazy movie, right? I mean, because it is so.
And the girl with the creepiest eyebrows in the history.
Oh, the little blonde girl,
little girl.
Yeah, the little blonde girl. But it's just a crazy film. So what they do is they obviously assembled a ton of rabbits in this film, and they built like these little miniature sets, kind of like a Godzilla film or something like that. And there's just all this stock footage of the rabbits like running around among these little cars and buildings and all this sort of thing. And then they
telephone poles.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, in the mine shaft, right. Because the big rabbits hang out in the mine, and they just kind of reuse these same scenes over and over and over again. And they're all trying, with the cops, the military, they're all trying to figure out ways to deal with these giant rabbits. And then, they have these weird scenes where I did some reading up on this. Apparently for the scenes where they're like shooting the rabbits, they came up with these like little paint guns, right? So when you see the rabbits getting shot at, it's actually like some kind of red paint or red substance that just hits the rabbit and explodes. And of course, rabbits are really fickle. So you do anything to them and they jump and they freak out if you've ever been around rabbits before. So it was like the perfect scenario. So it's just the whole half of the movie is just rabbits running amok. But there's some gory scenes in here, right? That especially the one where the rabbit.
I was going to say that, I always wanted to see it. The first time I ever saw it was on Monster Vision on, I guess, TNT in the early 90s with Joe Bob Briggs. And I watched it and I laughed and I chuckled. But eventually when I saw, I think I got a bootleg VHS of it, and I saw the uncut version, yeah, there are some parts that are quite gory and pretty unsettling. I mean, you see like families that have just been eaten and torn apart by these killer rabbits.
Yep. And they do these close up of the rabbits, right? So all you see is teeth and everything. They throw like ketchup or something all over to make them look after they just like annihilated this family. And it's crazy. It's just I guess if you like Food of the Gods and you've seen like grizzly and some of alligator and all this kind of stuff, I think it's got a certain charm. It's dumb as all hell, but you know what? We all have soft spots for stuff like this, I think. So
absolutely, it's one of those ones. Every time I see it, and I've even seen it, off film in a movie theater, it's just one of those ones. Like every time I see it, I just scratch my head, going, "How did anybody think this was going to be a hit or a good movie?" I mean, it's rabbits. It's killer. There's the cutest things.
Yeah,
there's nothing scary. I don't care how you shoot a bunny rabbit; it is never terrifying ever.
Yeah.
And the great thing, like you said, like the size of a lion. Well, yeah, sometimes because they made a terrible movie, they didn't mean to, but the scale of the rabbits keeps changing. Yeah. So sometimes it's the size of a lion, sometimes it's the size of a car.
I know. And then you got a few scenes where they have the rabbits attacking people, and it's actually like a guy in a giant rabbit costume,
rabbit head,
and you only see like the head or the paws or whatever, and it's just it's like. But it's amusing as well. And you'll get a lot of laughs out of it.
Yes.
You won't be able to take your eyes off it, but it's just this is not like great cinema by any means. But
it's a terrible movie, but it's a fun bad movie for sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these. I mean,
Oh, no
we've
doubt.
already done numerous episodes on like animal attack films. I mean, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
This is by no means
This
the
one,
worst.
I mean, I could be wrong. This might even predate Jaws by a little bit. It might be early 70s.
Actually, you're right. It's 72, so it
Okay.
does. So Jaws did not read. Yeah, so this is almost
75,
like,
yeah.
so this is on when. So when was Food of the Gods?
I don't know. Food of the Gods could be like 75, 76, maybe. I'm just going off memory.
So this could be an extension of, in a weird way, kind of like the 50s, giant.
Yes, 50s
attack
sci-fi.
film, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was a book.
Yes.
Night of the Lepus was a book. I can't remember who
The
wrote
Year of the Angry Rabbit
it. There we go.
from 1964.
Okay.
So that 64 is right after all. I mean, all those crazy sci-fi movies and
Yes.
books were coming out like crazy in the 50s and the 60s. So yeah. So all right. So I misspoke earlier. So this is not inspired by.
Well, it's
Jaws
close.
26.
I mean, it's
Not the-
close.
yeah.
And listen,
Jaws had the formula. Jaws had the formula, and there were a
Right.
lot of films that came out after Jaws that followed a similar trope. But I would say this is more like Food of the Gods and some of the
oh yeah.
Them and all those sorts.
And listen, if Night of the Lepus was a hit, we would have said Jaws was a ripoff of that.
Of course.
So, Night of Lepus came and went. This was a humongous bomb and is still considered one of the worst and biggest losers in Hollywood history. So, yeah. But a fun flick for sure.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. It's fun because it's so bad, But yeah.
Nice.
All right.
All right, my
Final
last
pick for
one.
the day. Yep.
My last one for tonight, again, is from 1974. They're all from that same pocket. It was directed by Jonathan Kaplan, who later would go on to be an Academy Award winner because he directed the Jodie Foster movie, The Accused. Oh. And in my opinion, and especially as a fan of this genre, it is the single greatest blaxploitation movie of all time, and it's 1974's Truck Turner. And it's just an unbelievable, I never know which way to hold it, an unbelievable action blaxploitation classic. I mean, it's great. Isaac Hayes stars and did the theme song, and he's a bounty hunter. And the cast is unbelievable. Isaac Hayes, Yaphet Kotto from Alien and a ton of other movies, Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek, Charles Cyphers from the Halloween movies, who's going to be in the brand new Halloween movie, Halloween Kills, Scatman Crothers from The Shining, that guy Dick Miller, who's in the original Little Shop of Horrors and Terminator and everything Joe Dante ever did. And it's just action packed. I think the reason it's such a great movie was it wasn't originally written and conceived as a blaxploitation movie. It was written and conceived as an action movie. Just an action movie. It was going to be for either Lee Marvin or Steve McQueen.
Oh, wow.
And I believe, if I remember right, they couldn't get either of those. So then it was decided, okay, let's make some elements, make it a blaxploitation movie, but it wasn't originally done like that. It's tons of action. Nichelle Nichols plays a madam at a whorehouse, and she is unbelievable. I always wanted to meet her, and forget the Star Trek autographs. I just wanted to talk to her about this movie. The filthiest mouth of any madam in any movie. There's lots of nudity, lots of naked girls getting slapped around. Truck Turner runs around with a 44 Magnum shooting people while he's trying to catch his bounty. Man, it's a great action-packed flick. Like I said, it's the best blaxploitation movie ever. In 74 they put it out. AIP did it as a double feature with another one of the blaxploitation greats, which we talked about previously, Foxy Brown.
Oh yeah.
Which and I'm lucky that I have the Truck Turner poster, the Foxy Brown poster, and a couple of years ago I was able to find an original double feature poster for the two movies on
wow, nice
on one, which is really rare. But yeah, Isaac Hayes is just fucking great in this. I mean, I know a lot of people probably remember him as Chef from South Park, but he's great. He's believable. He kind of reminds me of Bruce Willis because he's kind of that everyman in a rough situation. things don't always go his way, but if you like 70s action exploitation movies, absolutely seek out Truck Turner. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
I haven't seen that in a million years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it holds up. It definitely holds up.
Yeah, I need to revisit that again. It's been too long. Cool. All right. My final one of the day is from 1980. Charles Kaufman, Lloyd Kaufman, otherwise known as some of the founders from Trauma Films, Mother's Day.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So it's a wacky movie. This is a wacky movie. And again, another one of those kind of like revenge. It's kind of like a rape revenge slasher film, sort of, but more of like a rape revenge film. So basically, the story centers around these three friends, these three girls, campers, who wind up stumbling upon this crazy family, because of course, this is kind of like backwoods.
I was just
horror,
gonna say,
right?
it's almost like Exploitation.
Yeah.
They're in the crazed family in the woods.
Crazed Family in the Woods. This is way before Wrong Turn and all those type of films. And basically, you got the two brothers and the crazy mother. That's why it's called Mother's Day. And they stumble upon the two brothers who, obviously they go and they kidnap them and they torture them and rape them and all this kind of stuff. And then the whole rest of the film is the surviving ones to then try and get back at the two brothers and the mother. And what's great is that the mother is like the mastermind behind all the evil shit that these two guys do. So this is not a good family by any means. And again, it's a typical trauma film from the 80s. The acting is terrible. It's got like elements of humor. It's just, some of it's so really dopey, but it's pretty intense and violent, and there's a good amount of gore, and some of the kills are pretty well done. And this was a pretty notorious film at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see this in the theaters, and I was just barely old enough to get into an R-rated film, and it did like a select showing in Middletown when I was a kid. But yeah, this was another notorious. I mean, remember seeing the VHS tapes of this?
Oh, for sure. And I
big
mean,
time rental.
Let's not talk about the pure genius, coming out with a movie called, it has really nothing to do with Mother's Day, but a movie called Mother's Day at the height of the slasher craze, when everything else was a holiday, with Friday the 13th, Halloween, My Bloody Valentine. Like, just the title alone, like, man, those guys were geniuses.
Yeah.
Geniuses.
Absolutely. And the woman who played, the lady who plays the mother,
yeah,
it's like so wacky,
so good,
such a great job. Yeah, this is a good one. This is probably one of my favorites from the all the million trauma films that are
oh yeah
there. I would think probably if you were to say what are the two or three most notorious trauma films, it had to be this, Toxic Avenger, and what, Nukem High, maybe, you think?
I was gonna say Class of Nukem High, or the other one I really like, Sergeant Kabuki Man.
Oh yeah. Those are some of the.
Those are probably the. But another one that I really enjoy, which has been getting more notoriety in recent years, because James Gunn directed Tromeo and Juliet for Troma in the early '90s, which had Lemmy from Motorhead in it, and now he's directed the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad.
I know, right? Crazy, right?
To go from Troma to some of the biggest movies in Hollywood, that's quite a feat.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like looking up some of the other ones. So Surf Nazis Must Die was another.
Oh, that's another.
That was another classic. Trying to think of what other ones here.
I always liked When Nature Calls. It's like a spoof on the Swiss Family Robinson. Like,
I don't know if I ever saw that.
I have it on DVD. It's pretty horrific.
Yeah, I mean, God, there's so many here.
Well,
Redneck Zombies.
Redneck Zombies is another one. And speaking of Troma, Troma are still putting out awesomely bad movies. And Lloyd Kaufman is going to premiere whatever the new Troma movie is. I forget. I saw the trailer, but at my buddy Paul's drive-in show at the Highway Drive-in in Coxsackie in September. It's part of his Dead Till Dawn movie festival in September, and it's something with shit. I can't remember the title, but if you're in the New York area, look it up on Facebook, Dead Till Dawn or Highway Drive-In, Hiway, and I'll be there checking out some of these awesomely terrible movies
Awesomely terrible is
on the big screen at the drive-in. Yeah, Lloyd Kaufman will be there in person presenting it. It's amazing, 40 plus years later.
Yeah, how old is he now?
God, he's like 100. I think he died and nobody told him. Because he's been making movies a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's got a cameo in one of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I think the first one, because he stayed friendly with James Gunn.
Yeah, crazy.
Which is crazy because James Gunn has the Suicide Squad opening nationwide tonight and on HBO Max. Yeah. It's like, wait, this is the same guy that used to make movies for Troma. Yeah. Fucking Troma.
I know. It's crazy when you think about it, how like companies like Troma and Full Moon, really made a good amount of money and big names for themselves in like the 80s and 90s. The whole like videotape rental thing, right? I mean, that's basically a lot of these never made it to theaters.
No, absolutely. Most of the Full Moon stuff went straight to VHS. Troma too.
Yeah.
I mean, you could bypass putting it out in the theater, and there's no middleman, so you're just selling tapes. And back then videotapes were really expensive, and then some of the every mom and pop had to have at least one copy, but some of the bigger stores would go and get like a dozen copies of whatever the hot title was.
There were thousands and thousands of video stores all around the country.
Yeah. Oh, it's unbelievable. They were everywhere. It's every town had at least one, if not, my little town when I was growing up had like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah. And then they really spent a lot of time in like VHS box art, right? Because you had to, again, this is, we're talking about actually going into stores and looking on the shelves, and you had to see, it had to catch your eye, right? It's like, I want to rent that.
Absolutely.
Rent that. So I remember, like this was a very famous, the very famous box art for this when it came out. I remember seeing that in the shelf, or I think of like, some of the Fulci films, like, City of the Living Dead, right? That mean that box art on that VHS tape, it's like it just jumped off the shelf. You had to go rent that. So
absolutely. And I mean, like Mother's Day and City of the Living Dead, which in the States was Gates of Hell. Yeah. I mean, those were the art that were originally on the US movie posters.
Well, posters, yep. Mausoleum is another one that I remember.
It's another great poster. I mean, we could do a whole show on just movie posters for sure.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to grab a bunch from the garage, and
that's true.
You have a good chunk of yours still rolled up and sealed, or?
I mean, I probably have, a huge amount. I couldn't even count, Pete. I mean, you've seen my garage.
It's more than 20, right? It's more than 20.
I have like 20 framed and probably hundreds in boxes. So
you must have some gems.
Yeah, I get some stinkers too. Well, but I definitely have some gems.
Yeah, the funny thing about movie posters is like it's a cool to collect them, but like at some point, like what do you do with all of them, right? Because you can't, you only have so much wall space, right?
So it's true. I mean, the good thing with the old ones is that at least the old movie posters used to be folded so that they could put them in with the canisters of the film and ship it out. So at least it's like a comic book in that it's kind of compact.
Yeah.
In the 80s, they would always keep them rolled, and those are a pain in the ass. Because at least if when they're folded, you can put a whole ton of them in a box. And you see my garage, I have a lot of them framed. The idea was to always change them out. But because I got the olds and I'm lazy, I'm just like, just forget it.
Well, changing them out would be an interesting way to do it. But here's a better idea. So, do you remember the old days when you would go to like a Spencer's or any of those stores, and you go in the back and they'd have all the posters and it'd be on the back? That's what you need. You need like a whole room, just that an enormous rack like that, where you could just kind of go through, and each one is double sided, so you have one poster on each side. You just go through like a poster book, right? But a life size thing.
Yeah. It makes sense.
There you have it.
One day.
Yeah, there's your solution.
Yeah.
Because then you have people over. It's like, well, check out my posters.
It's true. No, it's definitely true.
Yeah. Anyway, there you have it, everybody.
That's it. Exploitation.
of Exploitation. Well, we went long on this one, but that's okay because these are fun to talk about. So we will do a part 3 of this. So
for sure.
like I said, I think once a month we'll revisit the Exploitation films.
Sure.
So stay tuned in September for episode number 3. In the meantime, we have other things to get to over the next couple of weeks. So next week, Mr. Alo will be out on vacation. So I will be manning the fort here on the Monsters Den, and I'll probably just do a kind of here's what I've been watching lately. So that'll be coming up next week. The week after that, we've got Mr. Mike Portnoy and Dan Brown and Jamie Laszlo coming back on the show. We're going to rank our 5 favorite David Lynch thrillers. And then what are we doing after that, man? We have something else.
I forget.
Hold on, I will look it up on the spreadsheet of doom. What do we have coming up? We've got top 5 Dario Argento. So that's what Chris and I are doing.
Okay.
At the end of the month. So top 5 Dario Argento films. That will be fun. Always love revisiting the Italian horror classics from Mr. Argento. One of the best when it comes to well, you can even call a lot of his films exploitation films as well. But
absolutely. Again, straddles that line.
Slasher, giallo, horror. He's kind of a little bit everything there. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Don't touch that dial, though, because Mr. Alo and I are coming right back. We're going to switch gears. We're going to do a little ranking the albums, a little Celtic Frost. Yep. So stay tuned for that shortly after this. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow at the Fun House with Martin Popoff first thing in the morning. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.